Hey y'all, I am Jemiah, and today we are getting into I thought it was just me that needed a lifestyle change. So before I get into anything involving the lifestyle, I want to actually share my testimony of deliverance. I got baptized before I got delivered. I got baptized that was about two years ago. Yeah, because it was right before my 21st birthday. Almost three, like somewhere around that range. And truthfully, after getting baptized, my lifestyle got a whole lot worse, which, looking back, I have no doubts that that is just spiritual warfare at work. But yeah, my lifestyle got a whole lot worse. It wasn't until I got delivered that I even attempted to put up a fight to live a lifestyle according to the word of God. After I got baptized, God was not my Lord. God was just someone who I loved, but he was not Lord over my life. No sacrifice was happening on my end because I didn't deem it necessary. But I went to a conference in Houston. It was Revelation Church. It was Prophet Levy. Changed the trajectory of my walk completely. So originally, before we went, I was invited by my cousin. We went, and when she showed me the video before him, she was showing me some of his conferences and stuff, and I'm watching people get delivered. I did not grow up in all that. I did not grow up familiar to what deliverance was. And so truthfully, if I'm being honest, I thought people was on there being OD. I thought they was on there acting a fool, cutting up on purpose. I ain't saying it was right, but that's really what I was thinking. I kind of was like, okay, like I still was down to go, I still was down to go. And it wasn't until like the day before that all of a sudden I had this overwhelming feeling of like, I do not feel like going. I don't want to go, but she had paid for my ticket and everything. And I was like, Jemima, why are you being like that? Like, like you're fine. Like, so I pushed myself to go. So when we go, the word is so, so good. The worship was amazing. And for me back then, I was the type, if I was going to worship, it was going to be a little like, my arms was going to be all the way in. And I'm like, oh, Jesus. Like I'm looking around like, don't look at me. Just so y'all know, that's how I was. But when I was in this conference, hands lifted, bawling, I'm just like, like, listen, that's already letting you know, like, the Holy Spirit was really flowing. Great word, great teaching. And all of a sudden, before he even announces that he's going to do deliverance, I felt something completely dark come over me. It was like I felt angry. And I remember literally feeling my face go like this. And it sounds crazy, but I felt it. Like I felt like I was like this, and I'm just looking around at everybody like just dark. And then he started, calling all these spirits to, come out. And so I'm still sitting there just completely clammed up. And I don't remember what it is that he specifically announced come out, but all of a sudden I am hurled over the next seats, screaming, crying. I don't know what is happening. Like it's like completely out of my body. And again, when it came to my walk with God, I was very like, I still am learning to be comfortable with being vulnerable. Like I'm better at being vulnerable, but I'm trying to embrace being comfortable. So back then was like 10 times worse. Like nobody was going to be seeing me cry. Nobody was going to catch me talking about my feelings. You think somebody was going to catch me hooting and hollering and screaming and crying and shouting without me putting up a fight? Like that fight wasn't standing nothing. So I'm over the next people's seats, like all over the place. And then all of a sudden I felt like I was able to get my body back. But then again, it was that anger. So I'm sitting there like in a ball going like this. There's people to my left and right praying over me. But then somebody had came and told them like, don't touch her. Like, she'll make it down when she's ready. And I also learned some of this from my cousin's point of view who was there. She had filled me in on some of these things that like I didn't realize was happening around me. So, which I did not realize at the moment, I was going back and forth with an evil spirit in my mind because I was like, I need to go down to the altar. I didn't know what to expect at the altar. I just knew I needed to be down there. And that spirit was telling me, don't do it. everybody's already looking at you. You're gonna look like, just, pride. It was seriously pride in my ear, heavy. Like, I feel like I'm going back and forth. And I'm still sitting there angrily. And so all of a sudden it was like I felt like I had control of my body and I just zoom. And so it's a huge stadium. I am on the third floor up, I think, and I just start zooming. I start going down. When I get down to like about halfway of the final, what do you call that? The final floor to go down. I'm about halfway and I start slowing down, but there's ushers completely going down, and I start like backing up. And then they held me, like they were like, what's wrong? Like, come on. And they could tell I started getting uneasy. Before I even make it, y'all know when babies go noodle, my grown tail did that. My grown tail went noodle in these people's arms. And I started screaming and crying and saying, no, I'm scared. This is the thing. Y'all have to think about, and it's not humiliating looking back on it, because it's like, it's the Lord, and it's like, it's encounters like this that changed my walk forever. I'm super grateful. But do y'all know how humiliating that is? Like, I'm like a big tail baby. Like, and so I literally went noodle and like legs, all that. And so they just were carrying me. And I remember one of the ushers going, nope, you getting delivered today. Thank God for that, man, for real. But they like are carrying me down there. I'm crying. I'm like, no, no. I finally get down there, and I will never forget. I was looking around and I was like, this is what hell is. Like, you just see people all over the floor crying, screaming, throwing up, but it's these demons manifested. So it's literally a picture of what hell is. And I'm just like in shock. It was terrifying. And so I'm like closing my eyes and I'm plugging my ears and I'm just rocking back and forth. And all of a sudden I open my eyes and it kind of feels like maybe they forgot about me, but that wasn't me. I'm looking and I'm looking around, and out the periphery of my eye, I see this going like this woman, and her arm just keeps going like that. And every time she did it, my body jolted. Every single time she was going like this, my body was jolting. So then I start crying again, and I'm like, please stop, stop. And I'm like screaming at her, and I'm like, stop. And she's like, out, out, out. And she's just, so I'm low key feel like I'm reliving this. After that had happened, that whatever spirit that was on me was not trying to let go, because I felt like it kept feeling like a tightness. Like it literally was like as if something was holding onto the inside of my body, just refusing to let go, like a child throwing a tent, like sitting here like I'm not moving. At this point, I end up I don't remember, after all that happened, I'm crying and stuff. Somebody lays hands on me, I pass out. And then by the time I wake up, I'm like, realizing what just took place. So I walk all the way back, all the way up to that third floor, and I just bawl sobbing to my cousin. And I'm like, thank you for taking me here. Thank you for bringing me here. And that was the first night I broke out in tongues. When I first ever spoke tongues was in the worship after that. And so, yeah, that is my deliverance testimony. I wanted to share it for a long, long time. I actually had a whole nother video filmed, and that's when like my stuff was acting up, and I know that was nothing but the enemy. But yeah, so that is my deliverance testimony. I share all that to say, getting into the lifestyle change, that it was that encounter that made me realize the spiritual realm is real. God isn't just telling me to do these things to just be a nice little girl. Like, no, there are things that take place behind what we do in the physical realm. So it was a wake up call for me. At the time, I was drinking heavily. I was smoking. I was having sex. I just started realizing like, okay, this stuff is really real. But by the time this happened, I was deeper into my lifestyle, and it was hard. It was really, really hard. So this is where a lot of backsliding was happening. And this was also when that Matthew verse comes into play so heavily, of when a wicked spirit is cast out, if it comes back, the home is empty, it comes back with 7 more spirits, because that is what was happening to me heavily, like to a point where by the end of it all, I thank God for it, because it got me to where I am, but I completely lost myself. Like, when I tell y'all I did not want to be living, it's no joke. Um, but that's a whole nother thing. So after that happened, in the deliverance and I'm fighting, there were so many more spiritual encounters that happened afterwards. There was a time I was back in my backsliding moments and I just, was just going with it. And I was getting nonstop messengers and messages that I was going to end up pregnant. Like to a point where it was, friends would laugh at me because it would not be necessary, but I was constantly taking pregnancy tests because I was terrified. And they would laugh, but it was serious. I was having people that weren't even close to me, like telling people that were close to me, I had a dream that Jemiah was pregnant. I had a dream that Jemiah was a single mom. I had a dream like that. Listen, and I don't play behind dreams. Like dreams are very serious. Not only that, I actually had an encounter one time where the guy was in the shower and I was laying, just chilling, I was about to fall asleep. And I remember when we made plans for him to come over in the first place, God told me, don't have sex. And it was just one of the things, like I knew I shouldn't have been in the first place, but for some reason God had it heavy that day, like don't have sex. And so I just was like, okay, like, but then when it came down to it, I'm thinking, that is so bad, but I'm being honest. All of a sudden, I felt God tell me, if you don't stop, you're going to get pregnant. And I was like, oh, okay, God, like, oh my goodness, okay. And I'm, listen, it gets worse. So I was like, okay. Then I was just like, I keep getting just more and more cozy as I'm falling asleep. And I'm like, I'm gonna just like give him a little kiss or something. Like, like something like trying to flirt around with it. Like, we won't do this, but I'm gonna do that. And all of a sudden, y'all, I felt extreme stomach pains, like extreme. And like, I'm like sitting there like hurling. And it was like, I was like, I'm not playing with you. And I was just like, okay, okay, okay. Like, I was like, okay, 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 okay. I wanted the pain to stop. And then it stopped. And I didn't that night. Now, unfortunately, I'm not going to sit up here and lie to y'all like it just stopped right then and there. But it was one of those seeds that planted like, what is happening? I would also have for like 100% spiritual messengers every time I was trying to run from something that God was telling me. Because let me tell y'all, me and Jonah, we like this for real. Like one thing about me, I was running. Still got some little running tendencies, but that's neither here nor there. What would happen is that anytime it was something that like a message that God was trying to reveal to me, the person would like completely be illuminated. I don't know how to explain it, but every time it would happen, they would be like completely illuminated and I would just bust out crying because it was like overwhelming. I could feel it all in my body and my stomach. And like at one point I was feeling deeply convicted about something. I happened to go to family's house. And she was, she looked at me and she was like, I feel like there's something that you're holding on to, and God is saying that by the end of the year, you need to be done. And she just like, when I tell you, I literally was going like, I wish I could explain it to you, but trying not to look like directly at her because I knew that it was like that illumination, like just bright. And it's so hard to explain. But then as soon as I looked at her, busted out crying, bawling. I haven't if you got some prophetic friends and family, that's the thing. No matter how much I ran, God constantly had prophetic people around me. I even had another messenger type situation. I didn't even know this girl, y'all. I didn't even know this girl. No, I'm too scared to tell that story. Another encounter was when it was a point in time again where I was trying to break free from lust. I also struggled with pornography and masturbation. This was something I stopped during the time, and I'm just, really trying to break free from all these things, all these doors that opened. And it was the first time that I was ever attacked in my sleep. And I dealt with nightmares. I dealt with sleep paralysis, very, very vivid dreamer. Like God communicates to me through dreams a lot. But it was the first time I was attacked. I was sleeping And in the dream, it was like I was like out in the rain. It was with this man, and he was like my driver. He let me in somewhere, like when they walk you with the umbrella, and all of a sudden it immediately turned perverted, like as if it was trying to rush. I knew that it was a perverted dream, and I started fighting to wake up. I'm held down. I can't move, and I hear like I feel intense whispering, like I can't make up the words. It's like as if it's like four or five voices whispering at the same time. Whatever it was, it had my neck, and it said, "You cheating B." And then I woke up. I'm literally trying not to tear up right now because it was very traumatizing. I woke up panicked, and so I tried to like knock on my roommate. She was sleeping. I called my aunties, crying, asking for prayer. Like it was very, very scary. I couldn't sleep with the lights off for a while, like for a long time after that. And then I felt guilty because of that, because I'm like, I should not have the spirit of fear. I should trust God. Like I shouldn't be scared. With all this being said, the reason I'm bringing up all these spiritual encounters before I get into the push to change my lifestyle is because all these things that were happening was opening up so many doors and portals spiritually that I didn't realize. Opening doors, opening gates, closing doors that were destined for me, closing opportunities, holding things up in the spirit, constantly having me in delay because I was so disobedient. And the things that were happening in the physical were literally just a cherry on top of all the disastrous things that were happening in the spiritual realm when I was making the choices that I was making. And, when I got to get out of it and really reflect, it is scary to think about. God is so merciful and graceful to have even sent me those warnings. And truthfully, I wish that my story was I love Jesus so much that I stopped. Unfortunately, it wasn't. I think that I fell deeper in love with God as I started stepping away, because sin and disobedience, it creates blocks for intimacy with God, and different levels that you can, like with communication with God and things like that. Like it just gets in the way of everything, right? So yeah, I wish that I had that story, but I don't. One day, it was actually when I was really struggling with wanting to go back to pornography. What did I write down? It was a specific thing that I wrote down. Note to self: you're never going to get what you want through this. And it was like that day, God was just revealing to me the things that I thought that I was getting from these things were just all counterfeit. I was allowing idols to remain idols in my life because I still had hope in these idols. I would be on a roll temporarily because of the messages and the conviction and, these moments that God would send me, but it didn't sustain because I still had hope in my idols. I still had hope because somewhere, some way, I was convinced that that was going to get me what I wanted. God just, revealed it to me. The love and intimacy that you're craving, that I instilled in you, you're not going to get through pornography. The love and intimacy that you are craving, you're not going to get it by settling for somebody, giving up your body. How pretty and perfect you might make yourself out to be, it's not going to be earned through people pleasing. It's not earned. The only way that you are going to get these desires fulfilled is through me, because I instilled them in you. And so once I came to that realization and I actually believed the Lord, I'm like, oh, like it's no point of even going in this cycle anymore, because I'm not going to ever get what I want. And it might sound bad because it's like, dang, you didn't stop for Jesus. And that was the case at the time. Like he revealed to me that answer, but I wish that it was just the love alone. But I'm going to be honest with what it was. He had to reveal that truth for me to get me to actually stop. These things that I saw as my idols, because I put them in God's place, I was expecting them to do what only God can do. I was expecting these idols to give me peace and comfort and intimacy and love and fulfillment. And it's all counterfeit. They're very, very real voids, but these are fraudulent, counterfeit, temporary solutions. So imagine that hamster wheel, imagine that constant cycle. As I started walking with God and surrendering my life, my lifestyle over, I got so much revelation about the spiritual realm and the things that were happening and the consequences of my choices. And I got to really learn how the spiritual realm is really a world of law and deeper than a punishment type thing, the lawful consequences, what happens by law when I was making the decisions I was making to step out of alignment, to step out of God's will. It's laws that we live by. And I know a lot of this stuff is very, very heavy, but I want to get into things that have really transformed my life from turning my life around, and just being obedient, and I say being obedient because you might not be called to some of the things I was called to. One of the things I was called to was to stop drinking. So what was going on with me? I was having a really hard time with self control. Sex and masturbation were things that I felt a lot more guilty and icky about. But it was deeper rooted issues that I didn't know, or that I wasn't, getting deeper rooted things I wasn't really plucking out. But those were major fruits of icky roots. So there was so much more that God was calling me out of. And so what was happening though is I was bouncing between different things. So when I wasn't having sex, I was leaning more to masturbation. When I wasn't leaning into masturbation, I was overeating. If I wasn't overeating, I was binge watching TV. If I wasn't binge watching TV, like it was always something. I also had gotten into a habit of smoking and taking edibles. That in itself got a whole lot of testimony to it, y'all. I'm telling y'all, but that's a whole nother topic. It was like anything I would stop, a craving for something else would heighten. I wanted to do what I wanted to do whenever I felt like it, really. And that was my problem with everything. It came to a point where it didn't feel good enough to, if I'm for a month, oh, I'm with the Lord, and then all of a sudden I'm on somebody's table, shots. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't matter if it's one time. Like, I wanted my dedication to be dedication. Like the Bible says, I wanted my yes to me yes and my no to me no. The things that I cut out, I don't drink anymore. I don't smoke. I've overcome pornography and masturbation, and I am celibate. Those are like the major things, but it led to even more things. Like, I realized that I had a problem with gluttony, overconsumption, and things like that. So it started spilling into TV, constantly wanting to binge TV. I had issues that I didn't want to face with rejection and abandonment. So that's where some of the poor decision making was coming as far as my love life and things like that. When he got some of these things out, there was so much rooted beyond them that I didn't see. And because it finally got the attention and nurturing that it needed, that God was calling me to, I glow different. I'm talking like, people might think it's just weight loss, but it's like a spiritual weight loss that happened too. It's a different love and joy and things that, God says is our portion. Just constantly filled with anxiety. My head was more clear. It was more clear to leave room in for him, loving myself more. I'm not here to tell nobody that, drinking this, that, and the third is a sin. God was convicting me because he was trying to reveal things to me that I couldn't see if I couldn't get these carnal sins out of the way. It's been a journey. I'm not going to sit up here and lie to y'all like some days aren't hard, some days are hard. I open myself up to a lot. So sometimes those cravings are still there. But it's listen, it's just taught me so much. I think a lot of even the revelation that I get from the Lord, I don't think I could have gotten it. I'm grateful that he trusts me with it. And I think that there were certain things like he had to trust that I could be disciplined before he could trust me with, next level, or trust me with praying over somebody, leading somebody, discipling people, teaching people. How can I do these things if I'm not willing to be submitted to the most high teacher? Overall, obedience is going to give you a glow. The Lord knows how he made you, and he has the ultimate plan and design and structure for your life. Everything outside of that is going to cause friction. It's going to cause tension. And so that's the best advice I could give. People kind of question me sometimes, like, why am I so hard on myself? Why don't I do things? And why don't I just live young and enjoy my youth? And this is enjoying my youth. I have had so many encounters that can't be denied and that only me and him know about, that I can share in due time, but just trust in the fact that like these encounters and these things are no joke. And that is what has pushed me to be where I am and to just listen. I spent so much time not listening. People only saw the side that I'm laughing, cracking up, drunk, acting a fool, doing whatever I want, fighting for what I thought was freedom. And I was in bondage behind the scenes. I'm not wanting to live. I'm not wanting to be here. The same person that people feel like is just all laughs and smiles and giggles is dying right in front of them and they don't even see. I'm talking begging, crying. I don't want to wake up. I don't want to get out of this bed. Why am I here? I can't do this. Like, it's serious. And I'm grateful. Life is just different now. Even if there are hard days, it's just so different. I've just seen them work. I am a witness. That's today's thing, y'all. Hope y'all enjoy it or whatever. And I hope y'all have a blessed day. Um, yeah, that's all I got for this one. So peace in the Middle East. Let me know if there's anything y'all want to hear about or anything like that outside of some of these next ones we got coming up. Y'all stay blessed. God is good.